In the spring of 1994, the roads went quiet before the world understood why. In 100 days, at least 800,000 people were killed. We begin with absence, not spectacle. People who had lived meters apart were separated by a violence that entered homes, churches, and streets. 30 years later, Kigali wakes to clean roads, ordered traffic, and a skyline rising among green hills. Rwanda is often described through its safety, cleanliness, and speed of modernization. But its deeper achievement is more difficult to photograph, people choosing to live beside one another again. How does a nation come back from the unthinkable? Rwanda is called the land of 1,000 hills, though the phrase barely captures the folds of this landscape. Terraces follow the slopes, tea fields hold the rain, roads curl through valleys where daily life continues. Rwanda is smaller than Belgium. Its projected 2026 population is about 14.4 million. For many visitors, the first surprise is not the skyline, it is the order of the street. The cleanliness is maintained by policy, labor, and a public expectation that shared space matters. Rwanda restricted plastic carrier bags years before many richer countries, making environmental rules visible at the border. On the last Saturday morning of many months, ordinary rhythms slow and communities assemble. Umuganda means coming together in common purpose, sweeping, clearing, planting, and repairing. Participation cuts across age and occupation, from farmers and students to professionals and officials. It is civic discipline, social pressure, and community ritual at once. Long before European rule, Rwanda had a centralized kingdom, political institutions, and a sophisticated cattle culture. Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa were real identities, but they were neither simple races nor three sealed communities. Germany claimed Rwanda, then Belgium administered it after the First World War. Colonial authorities hardened flexible social categories into administrative identity. A category written on paper could follow a person for life and pass into the logic of the state. As colonial rule ended, political revolution brought violence, displacement, and new hierarchies. Families fled into neighboring countries. Children grew up with Rwanda as memory, inheritance, and unfinished politics. Among those exiles emerged the Rwandan Patriotic Front, seeking return and political power. In 1990, the RPF invaded. Civil war, fear, and political extremism reshaped the country. Radio and print repeated dehumanizing language until hatred sounded routine. On 6 April 1994, the aircraft carrying President Juvenal Habyarimana was shot down near Kigali. This film does not speculate about who fired the missile. Within hours, roadblocks appeared, telephones rang, and organized killing began. Civilians were checked, separated, and trapped. Churches and public buildings could become sites of terror. A colonial-era category, still printed on an identity card, could help determine who lived and who died. April became May, May became June, and the number of victims climbed beyond comprehension. United Nations troops remained constrained, while foreign evacuations carried many outsiders away. The RPF advanced across the country as government forces and militias retreated. In July 1994, the RPF took Kigali. The genocide ended, but the country it inherited was shattered. Homes, schools, and institutions were broken. Millions had fled or been displaced. grief occupied the landscape. Survivors and alleged perpetrators could now live on the same streets. How could justice move at the scale of a nation? Prisons filled and case files accumulated faster than conventional courts could process them. Rwanda revived and transformed Gacaca, community hearings named for the grass where people gathered. Witnesses spoke, defendants listened, and communities confronted accounts of what had happened among them. Gacaca courts processed roughly 2 million cases, an extraordinary national experiment in mass justice. The system accelerated cases and revealed information, but critics raised serious concerns about due process and intimidation. Post-genocide Rwanda placed overwhelming emphasis on a shared identity: we are Rwandan. Each year, Kwibuka, Remember, creates a national season of mourning, testimony, and reflection. At the Kigali Genocide Memorial, more than 250,000 victims are interred. Real licensed footage should carry this moment. Memory is not presented as the opposite of rebuilding. It is made part of rebuilding. Across 3 decades, roads, schools, health systems, and digital infrastructure expanded. Community health insurance, local health workers, and expanded schooling changed the texture of ordinary life. Public services increasingly move through digital systems, reducing distance between citizen and office. Vision 2050 imagines an upper-middle income and then high-income Rwanda built on services, technology, tourism, and industry. The phrase Singapore of Africa is tempting, but Rwanda is not a copy. The useful comparison is ambition, order, and connectivity. English, the Commonwealth, aviation, and regional trade all signal a country positioning itself beyond its borders. In remote hills, distance can turn a medical emergency into a race against time. From logistics centers, fixed-wing drones launch with blood and medical supplies. They fly over valleys that can make road travel slow and uncertain. A small package descends by parachute near a health facility, where a worker retrieves it. A country once made synonymous with death is now literally flying life-saving supplies across those same green hills. In the northwest, the Virunga volcanoes rise above dense rainforest and drifting mist. Visitors follow guides through wet vegetation, moving slowly and quietly. Then the forest changes, leaves move, an eye appears, and a mountain gorilla family comes into view. The standard permit for an international visitor is currently $1,500, with some category and seasonal discounts. The premium model links tourism revenue to guides, rangers, lodges, conservation, and surrounding communities. In Rwanda's parliament, women are not a symbolic minority, they are the majority. Following the 2024 elections, women hold 75% of seats in the Chamber of Deputies. The statistic matters, but its meaning lies beyond Parliament, in clinics, classrooms, businesses, homes, and public service. Christianity shapes much of Rwanda's public and private life. In 1994, some churches became places of massacre. Other clergy and believers resisted or rescued. Faith communities can offer language for confession and repair, but reconciliation is difficult, uneven, and never automatic. Paul Kagame led the RPF forces that took power in 1994 and has served as president since 2000. Supporters credit his government with stability, state capacity, growth, and an insistence that Rwanda define its own future. The National Electoral Commission reported Kagame winning 18% of the 2024 presidential vote. Critics and rights groups describe restrictions on opposition, media and dissent, including pressure beyond Rwanda's borders. Can the spotless streets and the closed political space both be true at once? How much political freedom will a society trade for stability, safety, and development after catastrophe? Rwanda does not fit comfortably inside a triumph story or a warning story. The hills are still beautiful. The history beneath them now changes what we see. A nation is never only its government, its trauma, or its statistics. It is people moving through an ordinary day. The national promise is visible in work: building, teaching, coding, healing, planting, and debating. The abandoned road, the identity card, the candle, and the damaged building remain part of the story. Each has a present-day echo: movement, citizenship, sunrise, and a city still becoming. Today, Rwanda is asking the rest of us to pay attention, not for an easy lesson, but for the difficult questions it keeps alive. If this story taught you something, subscribe. The map is where the journey begins, never where the story ends. Beyond borders, beyond the map, into the story. Thank you for watching.